Welcome, everybody, to my inaugural episode of Save the Game Boy. I know this was a show beforehand. I don't know who my predecessor was, but I'm taking over and I'm doing things all Nintendo. As you can see up on my screen here, there's a few things I want to talk about, but the first one you see is a mock up of a Switch 2. We don't know really what it's going to look like yet, judging from what we've seen through speculation, through factory workers. We could get something similar to this. We could get something with dual screens. We don't know, and we really have no idea what's coming out. But I want to start today's episode and really go through it and flesh it out by running through some questions that I've been given through my co-hosts, through fans, and just generally people on Discord. Come back to Discord, join me in the Save the Game Boy channel. We can discuss all things Nintendo. You'll also notice me jump in and talk about different things and different other systems, because I love PlayStation. Not that big a fan on Xbox, but you know if you're in the Discord. So let's get this started, and I want to start off with our head, Kevin. Kevin gave me what is your Switch 2 wish list? Potential features, launch titles, and abilities or things that the Switch 2 can do. Now, I want a bigger screen. I want bigger Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons on the Switch are a little small for me, so I really do need a Pro Controller. But I like playing the Switch in its handheld mode. I like this idea of a magnetic connector as well, so instead of sliding things down and potentially breaking things, especially with my 5-year-old and his I'm impatient hands, the mag connector would just be nice and easy to go right in there. I've seen the idea of dual screens. I know I talked about it right at the start of this episode, but having two screens could give us that DS feature, giving us a play map or extra things on the touchscreen on the bottom screen, and then having full open game on the top screen without needing to break immersion by looking at a map or pausing the game just to get into that, like, oh, I need to check where I'm going on a map. Because I remember on the Wii U, on this beautiful little device, on Breath of the Wild, I had the map on here, and I had the game going on the screen. And I really loved that feature. And it's sad that you can't really do that with the Switch. But I would love to see something like that on the Switch too. We know backwards compatibility is coming, and that's huge. This is the reason why I bought a Switch the way I did. I know trading it in is going to be smooth and easy to go up to the Switch 2, and I'll have all my save data in the cloud. I'll have all my game cartridges and my son's cartridges, so he'll be able to play seamlessly as soon as the new system comes out. I want an updated Bluetooth connector so that we don't have to use third-party devices just to get headphones to work. My wife could use her Apple iPods. I could use my Beats. My son could even use the connector that he has for his headphones that we use on car rides. I just want more included utility and what we can get with that. For launch titles, I'm pretty sure we're going to be getting Metroid Prime 4. There's no word about a new Pokemon game yet, but I would love to see the Zygarde A to Z coming out, or at least just some semblance of a new biome or a new region that we're going to be able to get in a new Pokemon game. Because I will say I am liking some of the remakes they did. I have not tried Sword and Shield. I have not tried whatever the new one is. I can't think off the top of my head. Just the whole past Pokemon, present, future Pokemon gimmick kind of didn't sit with me. I like my old stuff. I like my stuff before Sun and Moon. I like my X and Y. And really, my wife liked the X and Y games too, which is huge because she's not really that big of a gamer. But I'm really hoping that we're going to get some good titles. We're probably going to see a Mario title come out with it, even though we have Mario and Luigi RPG coming out fairly soon. We have a new mainline Mario title is definitely going to be on the horizon that has no words whatsoever because Nintendo has all of that under lock and key. But I'm real hopeful for what we're looking for. I'm hoping that we're going to be getting some information next month. I doubt it though. November's not really a month where Nintendo puts out Treehouse news. December's the earliest that we'll see a Treehouse, and I would say if anything, it would be within the first couple weeks. let everybody get hyped for Christmas, make the release date somewhere in April or May. I mean, early May would be great for me because it's a great birthday present for me. But a man can dream, and that's okay. That's why we're here. We're here to speculate, we're here to have fun, and we're here to talk about games. Sam, from over at the PlayStation Podcast, asked me about PlayStation titles that would be great ports for the current Switch or the Switch 2 when looking at what we have for hardware and everything. Now, we know some fighting games, like, let's say, Mortal Kombat 11 and Mortal Kombat 1, look very bad on the Switch 1. With all the upgrades and being PS4 Pro quality from what we've been seeing for the Switch 2, I can see a lot more of those fighters come out. We can see Street Fighter 6 coming over, maybe Tekken 8. For direct PlayStation titles, they're talking about God of War Trilogy being remade. I would love to see that trilogy moved over to the Switch. I know it's a pure PlayStation product and a pure PS IP, but how cool would it be for Sony and Nintendo to start playing nice, especially after what they're doing with Lego Horizon? This is where the whole question stemmed from, is because Take-Two and Lego want to do a Horizon game, and Sony was like, sure, do it. And then didn't make it exclusive, which means Sony wants to play ball with at least Nintendo. I know Sony and Xbox have been at each other's throats over the last year or two with Xbox's decision-making, but I like seeing Sony play well with Nintendo, because if it wasn't for Nintendo, PlayStation wouldn't exist. But it's too hard to think of specific, direct PlayStation IPs. Bring back Infamous. Throw those 3 games on the Switch 2 and watch everybody have an absolute blast out and about just being Cole McGrath. Bring back collection games, too. Like, I know Capcom's doing fighting game collection, they're doing their beat-em-up collection. Let's get some more collection styles. Let's see what we can do with retro-style platformers, even from the old PS1, PS2 era. There's a ton of games on the PS2 that would be perfect to go over to the Switch. Something that came directly to mind is Eve of Extinction. Very unknown game, but a beautiful little gem in how the combat system worked. If you have time, go look up Eve of Extinction for the PS2. You will not be disappointed. Well, let's get to our next one. And we had Kyle. Kyle coming in. What Nintendo series should be brought back? Now, Nintendo has a lot of IPs that they have sitting on the back burner that we don't know anything about what they're doing. Nintendo doesn't release information on a game until it's like at least 75% complete or in the polishing stages, because Nintendo likes to keep everything to their chest. And I can respect that. I can respect wanting to put out a game that's perfect in their eyes, that doesn't need day one patches because of a game-breaking bug that was missed in testing. I can respect that they want everyone to be able to play right away, rather than, oh, we need to wait for a patch because somebody figured out something. Or graphics aren't working the way that we wanted them to. Or half of the game is missing. Which I've seen with many AAA games from the start. Bethesda games, Fallout 76 had so many problems. We can even say the same thing like Cyberpunk or No Man's Sky. Many games that off the get-go, if they didn't have updates or a dedicated team that wanted to work with these things, they'd be dead in the water. But we get inclusions of Mario, Zelda. Metroid's really making a comeback. Dread was a beautiful game, and I cannot wait for Metroid Prime 4, because there's just so much that you can put into those games to make them fun, replayable, and even there's a huge speedrunning community for almost all of these games. But I would love to see more of Golden Sun. The last Golden Sun was released on the DS in 2010, and it still didn't finish the story. I want that story done. It is a beautiful RPG. It has an amazing sidelined mechanic with the Djinns. just being able to move, change, and manipulate the elements around you by just choosing different partners that you can manipulate and add into your team to just do different psychic abilities, which was just awesome. And I want more Punch Out. Why didn't we get a Punch Out on the Switch? Excuse me. Why did we get Joy-Cons? And the closest thing we got to a legitimate Nintendo boxing game was more Wii Sports. Punch Out is perfect for the Joy-Cons. Especially with how they modified and did things with the Ring Fitness game. Putting one on a ring, putting one on yourself to be able to map and how you're physically moving for exercise, which is great. I own it, and that's what I'm using to get some of my internal exercise at home, just like I use my PlayStation boxing trainer. I love boxing games for some reason, and they're just so fun. Why don't we have Punch Out? Why don't we have a Punch Out game? I would love to see Switch Punch Out or Super Punch Out 2. Just give me something with a title of Punch Out and what we can do. Because the Wii one was pretty good, but it didn't use the Wii remote. You turn it around and used it like a Nintendo controller. Why? Why do you have these capabilities of full-on movement and immersion and you don't use them? Now, the last question I got here, I know Ty is a bit of a joker. He wants to ask my opinion on why the Switch 2 won't sell as well as the Switch 1. Now, it's true. The Switch 2 won't sell as well as the Switch 1. But Kyle beat me to it. It's because the Switch 2 is going to sell a lot better. The one thing I can do from research that I was doing earlier today about numbers, sales numbers, and other things that have gone on in the past, we look at the 3DS and the DS. The DS at launch in its first year sold about 2.3 million units. Phenomenal for a game, for a handheld. Now the 3DS outsold that almost 2-to-1 with 4.5 million units, which is fantastic. We're looking at an upgraded system, better graphics chips, a gimmick that they put in, because the 3DS feature was really kind of fun in the Zelda game, and a couple of the, I used it in Majora's Mask, I used it in Ocarina of Time remake. It was great. And I know some people get like motion sickness, and they have the little meter that allowed you to turn down the intensity, but they were thinking about how to make this accessible for everyone to not be detrimental. Why do we have a slider? Oh, because person A, like me, can have that slider all the way up and see everything with the 3D. But maybe my wife can't play for too long and she puts the slider down to get the 3D function, but not hurt her eyes. And I really liked what they did with that. And I really hope that we get some cool features and maybe a gimmick or two. Like, what if they included an undersized 3DS slot? What if they gave us the capability to pop in DS games into a Switch? Just so we could have a little bit more fun on a console that, yeah, they just killed the eShop this year for the Wii U and the Switch. So we can't download anything from those anyway. So now we're up to just buying them secondhand, buying games that aren't in print anymore, and we have to go through that way, which I get. But that brings me to my personal bonus topic. Kyle and I have been going at each other for months for this, and I want to get him on the show so we can have a solid discussion about a dirty word everyone knows as emulation. I believe emulation is acceptable within a specific range. If we can access the games, if we can buy them and physically get the media for them, then no. I have tried using Yuzu. I used it as a demo tool so I could see, do I really want to buy a Switch? There's like 2 games at the time that I wanted. I played a couple of them, And I was like, okay, this is great. This is something that I can add to my console schematic. But I never got around to it because I had a child. And it was real hard to get out and go get a Switch during the pandemic. So it kind of fell off the wayside. Yuzu went away. And I went back to my old emulators, my old NES, Super Nintendo, Sega, like all of these that you can't get games for anymore. And I believe once we hit a certain threshold of year or console generation, then it's acceptable to go before that. Like if we're looking at the Switch and the Switch 2, we're not going to emulate Switch, we're not going to emulate Switch 2, obviously. But is it okay to emulate GameCube? Is it okay to emulate the Wii? The Wii and the Wii U Wii was one of the longest running Nintendo consoles because of how accessible it was. But you need accessories and things to run a type of emulator on a PC. So I'd say nix that, even though the Wii has a lot of base controller features and we can manipulate a touchscreen or the Wiimote as just a mouse. I believe I've seen a couple emulators run it that way. But let's keep off of that and say GameCube and before. That leaves us with 4 consoles that we can emulate without real issue. We could do PlayStation 1, there's PlayStation 2 emulators, there's a PS3 emulator out there that's doing really well, but I would probably stop it there. PS4 is still out there. People still buy it. PS5 hasn't been out for the longest time, even though we're getting a mid-series refresher with the PS5 Pro. But people are still buying PS4s. So no emulations for those top ones. PS3, I would say a little iffy, depending on where the game lies. Can you get it on a PS4? Yes, no emulation. PS2 games, we're slowly starting to bleed those into the PS5 ecosystem with PlayStation Plus Premium, but there's still a ton of games there that haven't made their way over. So I would say most of that would be okay. Dreamcast, absolutely. Sega Saturn, go for it. These are dead systems that aren't getting remakes. They're not getting refreshes, they're not getting anything else. There was word of the Dreamcast Mini, just like we have the NES Mini, the SNES Mini, the PlayStation Mini, I think there's a Sega Mini and an Atari Mini out there. But everyone's buying those and using them as ROM machines. Like, I have family and friends that bought an NES Mini so that they could come home, mod it, and then pop on all of Nintendo's ROMs so that they can play everything on their TV. But that's what people want. We want emulation machines. We want to be able to play the games of... I think I want to play the games of my youth. Some of them are too expensive for me to even buy. Some of them aren't even in print anymore. I can't physically go buy a copy of Mega Man X3 because there were so little US-based copies. And if I do find one, I'm getting raked over the coals in a price. But I can emulate it. I was able to buy it on the Wii U. I was able to buy the first 3 Mega Man X games on the Wii U, which is why I still have my tablet so I can play those to this day. But then again, Capcom released the Mega Man collection. So I have all 8 Mega Man X games, all 11 Mega Man games in 4 discs. And we have the same thing on the Switch, which is phenomenal because I can play my favorite games on the Switch. Take them to go. And I'm not using emulators on my phone because I don't really like using a phone as a controller. But I think what I want to get back to my original point is emulation has a place. And it's just we need to, as a community, work on where that moral line is. Not emulation is purely evil, but let's enjoy it for what it is and how we can play our games. And you know, Nintendo has been caught using an emulator in their own museum. There are a couple of videos out there of disconnecting the Super Nintendo controller. It gives you nice little Windows noises. But that's Nintendo doing what they can do. Nintendo has full right to do anything they want to with their IPs, their games, their consoles. If they developed their own emulator to run on a Windows machine just so that they can have game preservation at the Nintendo Museum, awesome. That is fantastic. Versus using somebody else's NES emulator or a Super Nintendo emulator just because they didn't want to put the resources in. That's our next big question for Nintendo. We know you're emulating, but is it your own emulator? Are you using something somebody else created to do what we want so you can do what you want? But let's leave that as a discussion for later, because I'm sure somebody up there is going to be able to ask someone at Nintendo what kind of hardware and what kind of software they're using for their computers. I've been ranting and raving for 20 minutes. I want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sitting here with me, just looking at a Switch screen. I had some slides I wanted to go through, but you know what? I forgot. But we're going to look at the 4 of them right now. And that's it. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm here for. Let's have a discussion about Nintendo. Let's speculate to see what we can do. Let's speculate to see what we're coming out with next. What's Nintendo going to do? What are they going to bring back? How are they going to blow us out of the water with the Switch 2? Or how are they going to keep us under lights and under wraps of what's going on in the background? For me, I'm Brandon. You know me from Save the Game Media. And I'm here. I'm there. I'm everywhere. What I want to do is take a second before we sign off. We are doing our Extra Life charity drive. Anything you can donate helps. We're going to be doing our 24-hour live stream on November 2nd. We're going to be in Utica, New York, at this amazing new gaming facility that they built for college gaming, which is awesome. I cannot wait to get into that space. But I'm going to be on the couch there along with Kevin, Kyle, Taylor, and Brianna. Sadly, I don't believe Sam is going to be able to come with us because he's all the way across the pond. But you know what? We're going to have a blast. We're going to have fun, and we're raising money for a good cause. So check out the link below. If you want to donate out of the kindness of your heart, go ahead and help us out. Everything goes to the Extra Life charity. We don't take anything. The other thing I want to touch on is we do have a Patreon. Our Patreon gets you videos and podcasts a couple days earlier. We also do special events between all of the channels every couple months. One of my favorite things that we've been doing is we've been doing our own version of Jeopardy. And I'm going to be making the board for the next one, and it's going to be an absolute blast and super hard for them to listen to. Super hard for them to figure out, and I want to see how many of them I can stump with a lot of my weird knowledge questions over 38 years of gaming. Thank you for joining me. I want you guys to have a great weekend, and tune in next time.